A poor virgin girl boards a mafia boss plane by mistake, but he had shocking plans. She thought she was catching a flight to her dream job interview. Instead, she woke up on a private jet with the most dangerous man in Italy staring back at her. "You've made a very serious mistake," he tells her, eyes cold as ice. Now trapped on his Mediterranean compound, she discovers the truth. This wasn't random at all. The mafia boss has been hunting her family for years. The priceless artifacts her father stole, they're worth killing for. Forced to pose as his girlfriend during deadly negotiations, she never expected the bullets to start flying, or that he would take one meant for her. As FBI agents storm in and separate them, she makes a devastating discovery. She's pregnant with his child. But the most shocking revelation, the mafia boss never wanted revenge. His real plan was something no one could have predicted. Was their forbidden passion just another manipulation? Or did the most dangerous man in the criminal underworld find the one thing he never expected? A reason to change? The plane's subtle vibrations did nothing to calm Olivia's racing heart as she stared at her phone in the stranger's hand. The leather seat that had felt so luxurious moments ago now seemed to trap her, the cabin's wood paneling and crystal decanters taking on a more sinister edge. I think there's been a mistake," she stammered, her fingers digging into the portfolio case still clutched against her chest. "I'm supposed to be on a flight to Rome. The Galleria Borghese is not expecting you," the man cut in smoothly. His dark suit probably cost more than her yearly rent, and his perfectly styled black hair and sharp jawline might have been attractive, if not for the predatory gleam in his eyes. Olivia's mind raced through the events that led her here. The original flight cancellation, the helpful airline representative redirecting her to the private terminal, the too thorough check of her credentials. It hadn't been a normal boarding process at all. "Please," she said, forcing strength into her voice despite her trembling hands. "My mother will be worried." Even as the words left her mouth, she knew how childish they sounded. At 26, she shouldn't be using her mother as a shield, but old habits died hard. The man's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Your mother believes you're safely on your way to Rome. The text you sent her before boarding confirmed as much." Ice slid down Olivia's spine. He'd used her phone while she slept. The reality of her situation began to sink in, bringing memories of her mother's constant warnings about the dangers lurking in the world. After her father's disappearance, Teresa Romano had become obsessed with protecting her only child, monitoring Olivia's every move well into adulthood. "Who are you?" Olivia demanded, her voice stronger now. Fear was giving way to anger at herself for being so careless, at this man for whatever game he was playing. "Dante Salvatore," he replied, watching her face carefully for recognition. The name meant nothing to her, but his scrutiny suggested it should. She glanced around the cabin again, noting details she'd missed in her initial panic. The men in suits weren't just passengers, they were guards, positioned strategically throughout the space. Their weapons, while discreet, were visible if you knew where to look. "What do you want from me?" The portfolio case felt heavy in her lap. Her entire career, her future, was contained in those carefully prepared presentations and authenticity reports. "That's a complicated question, Ms. Romano." Dante leaned forward, his movement fluid and controlled. "But let's start with why you're really planning to visit the Galleria Borghese." Confusion furrowed her brow. "I have an interview. For a restoration position." "No," he interrupted again, this time with an edge of irritation. "You don't. The position doesn't exist. Someone went to great lengths to arrange this elaborate deception, and I want to know why." Olivia's world tilted on its axis. She'd spent months preparing for this opportunity, exchanging emails with the gallery's curator, submitting her portfolio. "That's impossible. I have all the correspondence." "Fabricated," Dante said flatly. "By someone with considerable resources and an agenda I intend to uncover." He stood, his height impressive, even in the confined space of the private jet. "The question is whether you're part of that agenda or merely a pawn." The turbulence returned, stronger this time, making the crystal decanters clink together ominously. Olivia gripped her armrests, her knuckles white. "I don't understand any of this. Everything I've worked for, it can't all be fake." Dante moved to sit beside her, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. "Your credentials in art conservation are real enough. Your expertise in authentication, particularly of Renaissance artifacts, is precisely why someone wanted you in Rome. They just didn't count on me finding out first." His proximity made it hard to think clearly. Despite her fear, she couldn't help noticing the way his presence seemed to fill the space around her, demanding attention. The contrast between his cultured appearance and the underlying threat he represented was dizzying. "If you know so much about me," she said carefully, "then you know I'm nothing special. Just a girl from Boston who's good at fixing old paintings." A dark chuckle escaped him. "Ms. Romano, if you believe that, then you know far less about yourself than you should. Your father made sure of that." The mention of her father sent a jolt through her system. "What do you know about my father?" "Enough to know his disappearance wasn't as mysterious as you and your mother were led to believe." Dante's eyes held hers, searching for something. "Antonio Romano didn't abandon his family. He was protecting you from a world you weren't ready to understand." Olivia's hands trembled as she opened her portfolio case, needing something familiar to ground her. Inside, her carefully organized papers and photographs looked back at her, suddenly seeming like pieces of a puzzle she couldn't quite grasp. "I still don't understand what any of this has to do with me," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "You will," Dante replied, his voice holding a promise that sent shivers down her spine. "For now, you're under my protection whether you want it or not. Someone went to extraordinary lengths to get you to Rome, Ms. Romano. And until I know why, you're not leaving my sight." Dante watched the girl's rising panic with calculated interest. Her delicate fingers twisted in her lap as she glanced around the cabin, no doubt noting the armed men positioned strategically throughout. Marco, his head of security, leaned close to his ear. "Identity confirmed, boss. Olivia Romano, 24, art conservator from Boston. Background check shows no red flags, but..." Marco's voice lowered further. "She was seated right next to the Visconti documents, had clear view while you were in the cockpit." Dante's jaw tightened. Tomorrow's meeting with the Visconti family would determine control of 3 major ports along the Mediterranean. One wrong move, one leaked detail, could spark a war that would paint the coast red. "Ms. Romano," he said, his voice cutting through her visible anxiety, "perhaps you'd like to explain how you ended up on my private jet?" "I told you, there was a delay with my original flight. The airline rebooked me." Her voice trailed off as his expression darkened. "The airline?" Dante's laugh held no warmth. "Tell me, does Alitalia usually rebook passengers onto private planes?" 2 of his men were already searching her carry-on bag, methodically removing items and photographing documents. Her portfolio case sat unopened between them. "Please," Olivia said, reaching for the case. "Those are my original works, my restoration samples." "Don't move." Dante's command froze her in place. He nodded to his men, who carefully opened the portfolio. Inside were exactly what she claimed: detailed conservation reports, before and after photographs of restored paintings, letters of recommendation from museums, everything a promising young conservator would need for a job interview. "Your wallet," he ordered. Marco handed it to him. Credit cards, museum membership cards, a few crumpled bills, then there, behind her driver's license, a worn photograph. Dante's fingers stilled as he examined it. A younger Olivia, maybe 12, smiled at the camera next to a man he hadn't seen in over a decade. Antonio Romano. The connection clicked into place with brutal clarity. He studied Olivia with renewed intensity. The same dark hair as her father, the same stubborn set to her jaw. But where Antonio had been calculating, she radiated innocence. Either she was an exceptional actress, or she truly had no idea who her father really was. The sun was setting outside the plane windows, painting the Mediterranean below in shades of blood and gold. Dante's mind raced through scenarios, contingencies, possibilities. The Visconti meeting couldn't be postponed. If word got out that Antonio Romano's daughter had surfaced after all these years. He poured water from a crystal decanter and approached Olivia's seat. She took the glass with trembling fingers but didn't drink. "Your interview in Rome is no longer happening," he informed her, his tone casual despite the weight of his words. "You'll be coming with me to my property." "What?" "No, I can't." "Don't worry, Ms. Romano," he continued as if she hadn't spoken. "If you're truly innocent as you claim, you'll be free to go once I verify a few things. But first, you're going to help me with something tomorrow." He paused, watching her reaction carefully. "You're going to pretend to be my girlfriend?" Color drained from her face. "Absolutely not. You can't just..." "It's not a request," he cut her off smoothly. "It's the price for boarding my plane uninvited." "This is kidnapping," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "No, this is business." Dante settled into the seat across from her. "And you're going to cooperate, because the alternative is far less pleasant." Her eyes darted to the armed men, understanding dawning in their depths. "What do you want me to do?" "Tomorrow, I have an important meeting. You will accompany me, smile prettily, and say nothing unless spoken to directly. Your presence will project a certain image I need to maintain. And after tomorrow? That depends entirely on what I discover about your involvement in all this." He studied her face for any hint of deception. "Tell me, Ms. Romano, when was the last time you spoke to your father?" She flinched as if he'd struck her. "My father abandoned us when I was 12. I haven't seen or heard from him since." "Abandoned?" Dante's lips curved in a mirthless smile. "Is that what your mother told you?" Confusion crossed her features. "What are you implying?" "Antonio Romano was many things, but a man who abandoned his family." Dante shook his head. "No, your father had very specific reasons for disappearing. Reasons that may have just caught up with you." He watched realization settle over her like a shadow, the understanding that her entire world was built on shifting sand. Her fingers clenched around the water glass, knuckles white with tension. "I don't believe you," she said, but uncertainty threaded through her words. "You don't have to believe me, but you will do exactly as I say tomorrow, or I promise you'll learn far more about your father's world than you're prepared to handle." The threat hung in the air between them as the plane carried them deeper into the gathering darkness, toward a tomorrow that would change everything Olivia Romano thought she knew about herself. The first rays of sunlight painted the horizon in shades of pink and gold as the plane began its descent. Olivia pressed her face to the window, exhaustion momentarily forgotten as a sprawling Mediterranean estate came into view. The villa complex crowned steep coastal cliffs like something from a postcard, all cream-colored stone and terracotta tiles stretching toward the brilliantly blue sea. "Welcome to Villa Salvatore," Dante said, his voice closer than she expected. She jerked away from the window to find him standing over her seat. "You'll be staying here until I'm satisfied with your story." "How long will that be?" Her throat felt dry despite the water she'd been nursing throughout the flight. "That depends entirely on you." He placed a large white box in her lap. "For tomorrow's meeting, I suggest you rest today. You'll need to be convincing as the woman who's captured my interest." The plane touched down on a private airstrip carved into the mountainside. As they deplaned, Dante continued his instructions. "My staff has been told you're a special guest. You'll have freedom within the compound, but not beyond it. A security detail will accompany you at all times." A sleek black SUV whisked them up winding roads to the main house. Inside, the villa was a study in understated luxury, marble floors, antique furniture, priceless artwork that made her conservator's heart skip despite her circumstances. A stern-faced housekeeper led her to a guest suite that could have housed her entire apartment back home. "Breakfast will be served on your private balcony at 9, the woman said in heavily accented English before departing. Olivia explored the suite, noting the security cameras discreetly mounted in corners. The balcony offered a breathtaking view of the Mediterranean, but also revealed the sheer drop to the rocks below. A guard stationed beneath maintained a careful watch. After a shower that failed to wash away her anxiety, Olivia ventured out to explore her gilded cage. The compound operated like a well-oiled machine. Staff members moved purposefully through their tasks, barely sparing her a glance. Armed men patrolled the perimeter with military precision. From a courtyard, she observed Dante in his office, conducting rapid-fire conversations in what sounded like 3 different languages. The reality of her situation crystallized with each passing hour. This wasn't just some wealthy businessman's estate. The level of security, the deference shown to Dante, the underlying current of controlled violence. She'd stumbled into something far more dangerous than she'd initially feared. She methodically noted possible escape routes out of habit, but each option proved impossible. The compound occupied a private peninsula with a single access road, heavily guarded at multiple checkpoints. The surrounding coastline offered no beach access, only treacherous cliffs. She was well and truly trapped. As the sun began to set, a maid appeared to escort her to dinner on the main terrace. Dante waited at a table, overlooking the darkening sea, rising as she approached. The casual elegance of his rolled sleeves and open collar somehow made him more intimidating than his earlier suit. "I trust you found everything satisfactory?" he asked, pulling out her chair. "The accommodations are lovely for a prison," she replied. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You're not a prisoner, Olivia. You're an honored guest who simply can't leave yet." Before she could retort, an elderly woman emerged from the house. Dante immediately straightened, his entire demeanor softening as he moved to kiss her cheek. "Nonna," he said warmly, leading her to the table. "May I present Olivia Romano?" Nonna Salvatore was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She spoke rapidly in Italian, her words making Dante's jaw tighten slightly as he translated. "My grandmother welcomes you to our home and hopes you'll be comfortable here." The old woman's knowing look suggested she'd said considerably more. Throughout the meal, she addressed Olivia directly in Italian, with Dante providing what felt like carefully edited translations. When his phone rang partway through dessert, Dante excused himself to take the call. The moment he stepped away, Nonna leaned forward and spoke in perfect English. "Be careful, child. My grandson is a good man at heart, but he leads a dangerous world." Olivia nearly dropped her fork. "You speak English?" "Many things in this house are not what they seem," Nonna replied cryptically. Before she could elaborate, Dante's footsteps announced his return. His dark eyes moved between them assessingly, clearly noting their changed positions. Later that night, Olivia lay awake in her luxurious prison, mind racing. The dress box sat unopened on a chair, a reminder of tomorrow's charade. Outside her window, the compound had come alive with unusual activity. Voices carried on the night air, urgent but controlled. Vehicle lights swept across her ceiling as more cars arrived at the main house. She moved to the balcony, watching men in dark suits hurrying between buildings with purpose. Whatever meeting she was meant to attend tomorrow clearly involved more than simple business. And somehow, she'd become an unwitting player in whatever game Dante Salvatore was orchestrating. Early morning sun painted golden stripes across Olivia's bed as she stirred to the sound of a gentle knock. A petite woman in a crisp uniform entered, carrying a silver breakfast tray. "Buongiorno, signorina," she said, setting down plates of fresh fruit, pastries, and steaming coffee. Beside the cup lay a cream-colored note card bearing Dante's bold handwriting. "Meeting delayed until this evening. Join me in the study at noon." Olivia sipped the rich espresso, watching staff members begin their morning routines through her window. With hours until her meeting with Dante, she decided to make use of her time. If she was trapped here, she might as well learn what she could about her captors. She dressed simply in clothes that had appeared in her closet overnight, then ventured into the villa's allowed areas. In the kitchen, workers prepared elaborate dishes while speaking rapid Italian. Their conversations hushed when she entered, but resumed once she pretended interest in the garden view. Near the laundry, she helped an elderly housekeeper gather dropped linens, earning a grateful smile. "You are very kind, signorina," the woman said, introducing herself as Sophia. "Not all of Il Capo's guests show such consideration." "Does Dante have many guests?" Olivia asked casually. Sophia's weathered face tightened. "Important families coming tonight. Much preparation." She caught herself, adding quickly, "But I should not gossip." Olivia noted how the security teams operated in coordinated shifts, communicating through discreet earpieces. Everyone deferred to men wearing particular silver tie pins. Lieutenants, she guessed, in Dante's hierarchy. The compound functioned like a small military operation disguised as a luxury estate. At noon, she followed a guard to Dante's study. The room took her breath away, not for its obvious wealth, but for its artwork. Her trained eye identified pieces that had made headlines when they vanished from museums. A small Caravaggio, an early Botticelli sketch, a Roman artifact that had disappeared from the Vatican's collection. "Admiring my family's heritage?" Dante's voice startled her from the doorway. She turned, pulse quickening. "These pieces were stolen." "Stolen is a matter of perspective." He gestured for her to sit. "Some would say we're reclaiming what was taken from us generations ago." The leather chair creaked as Olivia perched on its edge. Dante remained standing, his imposing figure framed by floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "Tonight you'll attend a business dinner as my companion," he said. "The Visconti family is coming to negotiate certain territorial matters. Your presence will suggest I'm considering settling down, making me appear more stable and traditional, important when dealing with old families." He detailed her role with military precision. How to dress, what to say, which topics to avoid. "Stay close to me, smile appropriately, and speak only when spoken to." A sharp knock interrupted his instructions. His security chief entered, face tense. "Scusi, boss. We have a Visconti complication requiring immediate attention." Dante's expression hardened. "Continue your preparation, Olivia. I'll return shortly." The door clicked behind them. Alone in the study, Olivia's curiosity overwhelmed her caution. She moved to Dante's desk, noting its meticulous organization. The bottom drawer stuck slightly, locked but not completely latched. Inside, a folder labeled Romano made her heart stop. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Surveillance photos showed her leaving her apartment, working at the museum, shopping for groceries, all from months ago. Newspaper clippings detailed mysterious art thefts across Europe. But the photo that shattered her world showed her father, younger but unmistakable, standing beside an older man who shared Dante's striking features. She was so absorbed, she didn't hear him return. "I see you've found our connection." Dante's voice was unnervingly calm. Olivia spun around, the folder clutched to her chest. "You've been watching me. For months." He moved closer, taking the folder gently from her hands. "Your father betrayed my grandfather's trust. He stole artifacts that had been in the Salvatore family for generations, pieces that proved our legitimate claim to certain business interests." "I haven't seen him since I was 12, Olivia whispered. "I know." Dante spread the surveillance photos across his desk. "When my investigation revealed you had no contact with him, I saw an opportunity. The museum interview was arranged through our connections. I plan to use you to draw him out of hiding. My entire career breakthrough was a lie." The room seemed to spin as pieces clicked into place. The suspicious flight change, the too perfect job opportunity. "Not entirely. Your talent is genuine." Dante studied her with calculated interest. "But now I see the truth in your eyes. You really don't know where he is." Olivia sank into a chair, her professional dreams crumbling around her. "All this time, you've been orchestrating my life, planning to use me against a father who abandoned me?" She looked up at him, tears threatening. "What happens to me now that I'm no use to your revenge?" Dante's expression shifted subtly, plans visibly realigning behind those dark eyes. She recognized the look from their first meeting on the plane, the moment when complications became opportunities. The evening sun cast long shadows across the compound as Olivia studied her reflection. The black dress Dante provided fit perfectly, another unsettling reminder of how long he'd been planning this. She touched the delicate silk, wondering how many other women had played similar roles in his schemes. Heels clicked against marble as a guard escorted her to the main dining room. Dante waited at the bottom of the stairs, his tuxedo emphasizing the dangerous elegance that seemed as natural to him as breathing. His eyes darkened as she descended, something possessive flashing in their depths. "Perfect," he murmured, placing his hand at the small of her back. The warmth of his touch sent unwanted shivers down her spine. "Remember what we discussed." Security teams patrolled the perimeter as black cars arrived through the gates. Men in expensive suits emerged, their careful movements betraying concealed weapons. Their wives dripped diamonds and old money, eyeing Olivia with measuring glances. Salvatore, a silver-haired man, approached, his smile not reaching his eyes. "We were surprised to hear you'd be entertaining tonight." "Visconti, Dante's." Grip on Olivia tightened slightly. "Allow me to introduce someone special to me. Olivia Romano." His lips brushed her ear as he whispered, "Smile like you're in love with me. Our lives may depend on it." The dining room gleamed with crystal and silver, security personnel stationed discreetly along the walls. Olivia sat beside Dante, hyper-aware of every movement around them. The conversation flowed in Italian and English, discussions of territories and operations, thinly veiled behind business terminology. "Tell us, Miss Romano," Visconti's wife leaned forward. "How did you meet our notorious bachelor?" Olivia felt Dante tense beside her. Drawing on her genuine anxiety, she flushed. "It was unexpected. Like fate had other plans for me." The truth hidden in those words made her voice shake convincingly. "Olivia has brought an unexpected light into my life," Dante added, his thumb caressing her hand with surprising tenderness. The gentle gesture contrasted sharply with the calculating look he gave Visconti. The first crack of gunfire shattered the practiced civility. Dante moved with battlefield efficiency, shoving Olivia behind a heavy oak table as bullets sprayed through windows. His body covered hers completely, shielding her from flying glass. "Stay down," he ordered, producing a matte black handgun from beneath his jacket. Around them, security teams engaged with the attackers, the dining room transforming into a war zone. The doors burst open. An armed man aimed directly at them, but Dante's reaction was instantaneous. 2 precise shots dropped the attacker before he could fire. Olivia flinched at the violence, but Dante's protective embrace never wavered. Through the chaos, she glimpsed other dinner guests engaging in the firefight with practiced skill. The Visconti patriarch coordinated with Dante's security while his wife calmly reloaded a pearl-handled pistol. This was their world, Elegant dinners could become battlefields in moments. More attackers breached the terrace doors. Dante fired again, his movements economical and lethal. Vincenzo's men, he growled to his security chief. He's breaking the coalition agreement. Olivia pressed closer to Dante's side, her heart pounding. The arm around her tightened reassuringly even as he continued directing his forces. This controlled violence was as natural to him as the earlier charm. Eastern perimeter secured, a voice crackled through earpieces. Second wave neutralized. Sweep the grounds, Dante commanded. I want Vincenzo's head for this. As the gunfire subsided, he helped Olivia to her feet. His hands moved over her with urgent gentleness, checking for injuries. The fierce concern in his eyes seemed far beyond their pretense. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, fingers tilting her chin to examine a small cut from flying glass. I'm fine, she whispered, struck by the complexity of emotions crossing his face. This wasn't the cold manipulator who'd orchestrated her capture, nor the smooth criminal leader from dinner. This man had killed without hesitation to protect her. Security teams secured the room as medical personnel attended to minor injuries. The Visconti family regrouped with professional composure, as if firefights were merely unfortunate dinner interruptions. Your security response was impressive, Salvatore, Visconti noted, straightening his cuffs. Perhaps we should discuss combining our enforcement resources along with the other arrangements. Tomorrow, Dante replied, his hand still resting protectively on Olivia's waist. My priority now is ensuring everyone's safety for the night. Olivia observed the shift in dynamics. The attack had somehow strengthened Dante's position, his efficient response earning respect from the other families. Even more disturbing was how his lethal capability had affected her. Instead of terror, she felt an unwilling sense of security in his arms. I'll have Roberto escort you to my private wing, Dante told her. It's the most secure part of the compound. His thumb brushed her cheek near the small cut. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning. The tenderness in that touch confused her more than any violence had. Olivia was beginning to realize that Dante Salvatore was far more dangerous than she'd initially feared, not because of his capacity for violence, but because of his potential to make her forget who he really was. The first rays of sunlight revealed the aftermath of violence at the Salvatore compound. Broken glass glinted on the terrace, and workers moved efficiently to repair bullet-scarred walls. Armed guards patrolled in double numbers, their vigilance heightened after the previous night's attack. Olivia stood at the window of her new room in the main house, watching the increased security sweeps. The space was smaller than her previous suite, but clearly part of the private wing. Rich wooden panels lined the walls, and the furnishings spoke of old money and refined taste. The lockdown will remain until we find who leaked our location. Dante's voice made her turn. He stood in the doorway, his suit immaculate despite the early hour. Only the tension around his eyes betrayed his fatigue. How long? Olivia asked. As long as necessary. You'll stay in this wing where I can ensure your safety personally. The implications of that arrangement settled over her. Shared spaces, constant proximity to the man who'd orchestrated her capture, and now served as her protector. Throughout the morning, she witnessed Dante's command in action. In his study, he conducted interrogations with cold efficiency. Each suspect was brought in, questioned, and dismissed. Olivia observed from her corner, where she'd been reviewing security footage on a laptop. You're wasting time with the kitchen staff, she said, during a break between interviews. The informant had to know the dining room layout intimately. Dante's eyebrow raised. Explain. The attackers knew exactly where to breach for the best angles. Look. She pulled up the footage, pointing out details. They avoided the reinforced sections, targeted the vulnerable points. That's not information from a casual observer. Interest sparked in Dante's eyes as he leaned closer, his shoulder brushing hers as they studied the screen. Show me more. They worked through the footage together, her art conservator's eye for detail complementing his tactical knowledge. Hours passed in focused collaboration. Olivia found herself drawn into the intellectual challenge, momentarily forgetting their complicated dynamic. There! She froze a frame. That service door. Only someone familiar with the staff routines would know it's left unlocked during formal dinners for wine service. Dante straightened, pulling out his phone. Vincenzo's nephew worked as a wine steward here 3 months ago. His voice carried satisfied recognition. Before transferring to his uncle's estate, the breakthrough shifted the energy between them. Over a late lunch in his private dining room, Dante explained the broader context of the territory disputes. The local businesses, the families who've lived here for generations, they depend on our protection, he said. Vincenzo would bleed them dry. Olivia pushed her food around her plate. Protection or extortion? Both. Neither. It's more complicated than that. He met her gaze directly. This isn't a world of simple morality, Olivia. The use of her first name sent an unexpected shiver through her. The way he said it felt intimate, like they'd crossed some invisible line during their shared investigation. Evening found them in his study again, sharing a quiet dinner while reviewing updated security reports. Olivia watched him read, noting how his powerful frame managed to suggest lethal capability, even in repose. Why art conservation? He asked suddenly, looking up from his papers. The personal question surprised her. I love bringing beauty back to life, she answered honestly, taking something damaged and revealing its true nature. Even if that nature is complex, darker than expected? The loaded question hung between them. Before she could respond, her hand bumped her wine glass. They both reached to steady it, fingers overlapping on the stem. Time suspended. His hand was warm against hers, the touch sending electricity up her arm. Olivia forgot to breathe, caught in the intensity of his gaze. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in his careful control. Dante pulled back first, his withdrawal deliberate. You should rest, Fooey, he said, his voice rough. Tomorrow, we'll know if it's safe to lift the lockdown. Olivia nodded, unable to trust her voice. As she stood to leave, she felt the phantom warmth of his touch lingering on her skin. The sensation carried a warning her mind couldn't ignore. Her fear of Dante Salvatore was transforming into something far more dangerous. She closed her bedroom door and leaned against it, heart racing. The man who'd manipulated her into this situation, who killed without hesitation, who commanded a criminal empire, that man shouldn't make her feel this way. But during their shared investigation, she'd glimpsed layers beneath his controlled exterior that challenged her every assumption. The compound settled into nighttime security routines. Through her window, Olivia watched guards patrol the moonlit grounds, their movements precise and coordinated. Like everything in Dante's world, protection and threat intertwined until the lines blurred beyond recognition. Olivia's footsteps echoed across her suite's marble floors as she paced. 3 days of lockdown had transformed the luxurious space into a gilded cage. The walls seemed to close in with each passing hour, despite the room's generous proportions. She checked her reflection in the ornate mirror, hair pulled back, simple sundress, casual enough for a harmless garden walk. The security detail assigned to her door had rotated shifts. Maybe this new guard wouldn't be as vigilant. Easing the door open, Olivia stepped into the hallway. She made it 3 steps before a familiar voice froze her in place. Going somewhere? Dante emerged from the shadows, his expression unreadable. He wore a casual black shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders, sleeves rolled to reveal powerful forearms. I needed air, Olivia said, lifting her chin. I'm not your prisoner. Then you're not treated like one. His voice carried dangerous calm. But if you want more freedom, ask for it directly instead of testing boundaries. I reward honesty, not deception. The way he said, reward, sent an unwanted shiver down her spine. Fine. May I please visit the garden? His lips quirked. Was that so difficult? You'll have security, but yes, the gardens are yours to enjoy. That afternoon marked the beginning of a new routine. Under the watchful eyes of guards, Olivia explored the magnificent gardens. Mediterranean flowers bloomed in carefully tended beds. Ancient olive trees provided patches of shade. Dante often appeared during her walks, falling into step beside her. Their conversations revealed unexpected depths. She learned about his childhood training in combat and business, the weight of family legacy. He drew out stories of her determination to succeed despite limited means, her passion for bringing damaged art back to life. You see beauty where others see ruin, he observed one afternoon, studying her face. It's a rare gift. Everything has value if you look closely enough, she replied, then added pointedly, even things others might dismiss as worthless. His eyes darkened. I never considered you worthless, Olivia. Dangerous, yes, but never worthless. Days passed. The garden became her sanctuary. Even with surveillance, she could almost forget the circumstances that brought her here until Dante appeared, reminding her with his mere presence of the complexities of her captivity. On the 4th day, storm. Clouds gathered suddenly. The first fat droplets fell as Olivia hurried toward shelter. Dante materialized beside her, steering her toward a marble pavilion just as the sky opened. Rain drummed against the domed roof. Water streamed down the pavilion's columns, creating a curtain that isolated them from the world. The air grew thick with humidity and unspoken tension. You're still testing limits, Dante said, his voice low, looking for weaknesses in security. Can you blame me? Olivia challenged. You orchestrated my entire life for months, manipulated me into that interview, all to use me against my father. To recover what he stole, Dante corrected, stepping closer. Your father betrayed people who trusted him. The consequences— Stop talking about consequences, her control snapped. You don't get to lecture me about trust while holding me captive. Captive? He moved forward until she retreated against the cool marble wall. Is that what you tell yourself to justify your attraction, that you have no choice? Her breath caught. I'm not— Lying doesn't suit you, Olivia. His face lowered toward hers, close enough to share breath. What are you really afraid of, me or how I make you feel? The question hung between them for one heated heartbeat before Olivia surged up, pressing her lips to his. Dante responded instantly, one hand tangling in her hair while the other gripped her hip. The kiss was explosive, months of resistance crumbling under raw need. His mouth claimed hers with devastating skill, drawing unexpected sounds from her throat. When his lips traveled down her neck, Olivia's inexperienced responses made him pause. He pulled back, studying her flushed face with dawning realization. You're a virgin, he stated flatly. Heat flooded her cheeks, but she met his gaze steadily. His expression transformed, possession and restraint warring in his features. I want you, Olivia. Make no mistake. His voice was rough. But your first time won't be against a wall during a storm. He stepped back, visibly fighting for control. When it happens, and it will happen, you'll come to me knowing exactly what you're choosing. Footsteps approached through the rain. Security guards appeared with umbrellas, breaking the charged moment. Dante escorted her back to the main house, his hand at the small of her back sending sparks through her body. That night, Olivia lay awake in her bed, replaying the pavilion scene. Her lips still tingled from his kiss. The memory of his touch made her restless with unfamiliar yearning. Despite everything, his manipulation, his violence, his criminal empire, she craved more. The realization terrified her. Rolling over, she pressed her face into the pillow. The storm continued outside, but the real tempest raged within her. Every logical argument against wanting Dante Salvatore crashed against the undeniable pull she felt toward him. Sleep proved elusive as rain lashed the windows, her body humming with frustrated desire and her mind tumbling through impossible choices. The morning sun cast long shadows through the library windows as Olivia traced her fingers over leather-bound volumes. She'd been hiding here since dawn, her mind replaying last night's pavilion encounter on endless loop. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Dante's lips on hers, his hands. She shook her head, focusing on the task at hand. The library held centuries of Salvatore family history. Somewhere in these books lay answers about her father's connection to this dangerous world. In a dusty corner, she discovered photo albums. The first held formal portraits, stern-faced men in expensive suits spanning decades. Then she found something more personal, a young boy with familiar dark eyes perched on his grandfather's knee, the same grandfather who appeared with her father in Dante's file. More photos showed the boy growing into adolescence, always under his grandfather's watchful eye. In one image, they stood before a glass case containing an ornate dagger. The boy, Dante, gazed at it with reverence while his grandfather gestured as if explaining its significance. Finding answers? Olivia startled at Dante's voice. He stood in the doorway, his presence filling the room as always. Today, however, carried an extra charge, the memory of his touch still electric between them. Not enough, she managed, holding up the photo of young Dante and the dagger. He crossed to her, taking the album. Then perhaps it's time I gave you some. His fingers brushed hers as he sat beside her on the window seat. Your father was more than just an authenticator for my family. He was trusted, treated like one of our own. Olivia studied his profile as he continued. My grandfather mentored him personally, taught him everything about our collection. That dagger, he tapped the photo, was our most prized piece. Renaissance era, believed to have belonged to Cesare Borgia himself. Beyond its monetary value, it represented our family's legacy in Italy. And my father stole it? Along with several other irreplaceable pieces, Dante's jaw tightened. The betrayal nearly destroyed my grandfather. He died still searching for answers. Sunlight played across old photographs as Dante revealed the full story. Her father had vanished without warning, taking artifacts worth millions, but the dagger's loss cut deepest, a symbol of Salvatore power dating back centuries. The pieces he took weren't just art, Dante explained. They were proof of our family's legitimate claim to certain territories. Without them, rival families began challenging our authority. A knock interrupted them. Dante's security chief entered with urgent news. He's surfaced. Romano's offering the artifacts to the Marchetti group. Olivia recognized the name from overheard conversations. Terrorists targeting Mafia families. Dante's expression hardened. They're demanding a meeting tomorrow, the security chief continued. Neutral territory. Set it up. Dante dismissed him, turning to Olivia. The lockdown is lifted, but circumstances have changed. I need you with me tomorrow, not as pretense, but as insurance. You mean bait, she said quietly. I mean protection. Your presence might prevent bloodshed. His hand covered hers. Will you help? She thought of the boy in the photos, of generations of history, of the father who abandoned her. Yes. The day passed in preparation. By evening, Olivia stood on her suite's balcony, watching stars emerge over the Mediterranean. Footsteps behind her announced Dante's arrival. Are you afraid? He asked, joining her at the railing. Yes, she admitted, but not of what you might think. She turned to face him. I'm afraid of wanting this, wanting you, despite everything. The air charged between them like the moment before lightning strikes. When their lips met this time, it held none of yesterday's hesitation. His hands spanned her waist, drawing her closer as she wound her arms around his neck. If I go with you tomorrow, she whispered against his mouth. I want tonight to be mine, my choice. Dante pulled back enough to study her face, searching for any doubt. Finding none, he lifted her into his arms. Tonight, he promised, carrying her to the bed. And every night after, if you'll have them. His touch was reverent as he undressed her, pausing to worship each inch of revealed skin. When she trembled, he gentled further, murmuring Italian endearments against her throat. Her inexperience met his expertise in a dance of discovery, his control evident in every measured movement. Bella, he breathed, hovering above her. My beautiful Olivia. He claimed her mouth again, swallowing her gasp as he joined them with exquisite care. Pain gave way to pleasure under his patient guidance. Every kiss, every caress spoke of possession tempered by tenderness. When passion crested, he held her through the aftermath, his embrace both protective and possessive. Later, wrapped in sheets and starlight, Olivia traced the scars on his chest while he stroked her hair. The night transformed them from captor and captive into something far more complex. Tomorrow would bring danger and difficult choices, but tonight belonged to this newfound intimacy, this unexpected connection that defied all logic, yet felt impossibly right. Dawn filtered through gauzy curtains as Olivia stirred, cocooned in warmth and the solid presence of Dante's body. Her muscles carried a delicious ache, memories of the night flooding back with each small movement. His arm tightened around her waist, pulling her closer against his chest. The peaceful moment shattered as his phone erupted with a harsh buzz. Dante was instantly alert, his entire demeanor shifting as he answered. Understood. We move in 30. He was already moving, efficiently collecting scattered clothing. Security's detected unusual movement near our planned route. We're adjusting. The timeline. He tossed her clothes onto the bed. Dress quickly, something practical. Olivia pulled on dark jeans and a fitted sweater, watching Dante transform before her eyes. Gone was the passionate man from last night, replaced by calculated efficiency as he strapped on a shoulder holster and checked his weapons. The broker claims to represent both your father and the Marchetti group, he explained while securing a second gun at his ankle. We meet at an abandoned cathedral outside Ravello. Stay close to me at all times. If anything goes wrong, you run to Marco. He'll be positioned at the north exit. She nodded, throat tight as the reality of their situation crashed back. Dante crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. His kiss was fierce, almost desperate. Last night wasn't part of any plan, Olivia, he said roughly. Remember that, no matter what you see today. The helicopter flight was tense, Dante coordinating with his security team while Olivia watched the coastline blur below. They landed in a clearing where 3 black SUVs waited. Marco efficiently distributed their people between vehicles, his face grim. The abandoned cathedral rose from coastal cliffs like a crumbling sentinel. Olivia felt its watching presence as they approached, Dante's hand firm at her lower back. His expression had gone cold, all traces of tenderness locked away behind an impenetrable mask. Inside, sunlight filtered through broken stained glass, casting colored shadows across stone floors. Armed men flanked a slight figure in an expensive suit. The broker. His smile didn't reach his eyes as he assessed them. "Salvatore, right on time." The broker's gaze lingered on Olivia. "And the lovely Miss Romano. Your father sends his regards." Dante's hand tightened on her waist. "The artifacts?" "Patience. First, we should discuss the unfortunate matter of loyalty." The broker nodded to one of Dante's own men. "Giuseppe has been quite helpful these past months." The betrayal hung heavy in the air. Without hesitation, Dante drew his weapon and fired. Giuseppe crumpled, dead before he hit the ground. Olivia flinched, bile rising in her throat. "Now," Dante's voice remained perfectly calm. "The artifacts." The broker produced an envelope. "Recent photographs, time-stamped. The dagger is particularly photogenic, wouldn't you say?" Olivia watched Dante examine the photos, his expression unchanging as he confirmed their authenticity. The Borgia dagger gleamed even in photograph form, its jeweled hilt catching light. 48 hours, the broker proposed. A simple exchange, the girl for the artifacts. Everyone walks away happy. Agreed. Location to be determined day of. Dante's tone was pure business, as if he weren't negotiating with her life. The drive back to their helicopter was silent. Olivia pressed against the car door, as far from Dante as possible. Her mind replayed Giuseppe's execution on loop. The casual violence, the complete lack of hesitation, or remorse. "You killed that man without blinking," she finally whispered. "I did." Dante didn't look at her. "And I'd kill anyone who threatens what's mine." She flinched at the possessive claim. "What you are, what you do." "I never pretended to be anything else, Olivia." His expression hardened. "You saw exactly who I am today." The crack of gunfire cut through her response. Their driver swerved as bullets peppered the vehicle. Dante lunged across the seat, covering her body with his as they careened off the road. The impact slammed them forward. Something warm and wet spread between them. Olivia looked up to find Dante's face tight with pain, blood seeping through his shirt. He'd taken a bullet meant for her. "Dante!" Her hands pressed against the wound as shouts and gunfire continued outside. His blood seeped between her fingers as his eyes locked on hers, filled with an emotion that looked terrifyingly like goodbye. Marco's voice cut through the chaos, coordinating their security team's response. But Olivia's world had narrowed to the spreading crimson stain beneath her hands and the increasingly shallow rise and fall of Dante's chest. Gunfire erupted around them as Marco's team returned fire, creating cover. Two security men yanked open the SUV's door, dragging Olivia and a bleeding Dante to safety. Her hands trembled, pressed against his wound as they half-carried him to the backup vehicle. "Go, go," Marco shouted from the front seat as they peeled away, tires screeching. Dante's breath came in short gasps, his normally tanned skin ashen. Blood soaked through his expensive shirt, staining Olivia's sweater as she maintained pressure. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice shaking. His eyes met hers, clouded with pain but alert. They swerved through narrow coastal roads, Marco taking evasive maneuvers until they lost their pursuers. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest villa tucked into the cliffs. A middle-aged man waited at the door with a medical bag. "Get him inside," the doctor ordered, leading them to a prepared room. Olivia helped them ease Dante onto the bed, her hands sticky with his blood. "The bullet needs to come out," the doctor said, quickly setting up his equipment. "Hold him still." Olivia positioned herself at Dante's head, gripping his shoulders as the doctor worked. Despite the local anesthetic, Dante's jaw clenched, sweat beading on his forehead. She watched his face, noting every flicker of pain he tried to hide. The bullet clinked into a metal dish. "Clean through the shoulder, Ontiar," the doctor reported. "Missed anything vital, but he's lost blood. I need to prepare antibiotics." When they were alone, Olivia finally asked the question burning in her mind. "Why? Why take that bullet for me after everything?" Dante's eyes opened, meeting hers with unexpected vulnerability. "Because I couldn't let you die." Through the night, as antibiotics dripped through an IV, they talked. Maybe it was the pain, medication lowering his guards, or the intimate darkness of the room, but Dante spoke of things he'd never shared. "I was 10 when they came," he said, voice rough. "My parents were negotiating a territory dispute. Someone betrayed the meeting location." His hand found hers in the darkness. "I watched from a hidden panel in the wall as they executed them. My grandfather found me there hours later, still watching their bodies." Olivia's throat tightened as he continued. "He raised me to survive, to lead, taught me that power was the only protection, that vulnerability got you killed. Every decision, every action since then has been about protecting what's mine." She traced gentle fingers across his uninjured shoulder. "And what you do now? The violence?" "I protect more than just myself. Families depend on us. Businesses, communities. The world isn't black and white, Olivia. Sometimes violence prevents greater bloodshed." She told him about her own scars then, the morning she woke to find her father gone, her mother's spiral into depression, working through college to support them both. "I chose art restoration because it was about fixing broken things," she admitted, "making something whole again." Dawn painted the room in soft light as they talked through their pasts, recognizing shared wounds beneath their different paths. The professional masks they'd worn crumbled, revealing the people beneath. By the second sunset, Dante had recovered enough to sit on the villa's terrace. Mediterranean breezes carried the scent of salt and citrus as Olivia helped change his bandage. His strength was returning, though the doctor insisted on one more night of observation before returning to the compound. "Come here," he said softly, pulling her into his arms. She went willingly, careful of his injury. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he murmured into her hair. "You were meant to be leverage, nothing more, a means to recover what your father stole." His good hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing her skin. But now, she saw the struggle in his eyes. The man trained never to show weakness, fighting against something stronger than survival. "Now you've become the only thing that matters," he admitted. "I'm falling in love with you, and it terrifies me more than any bullet." The kiss that followed was different from their others. Not desperate passion or calculated seduction, but a promise neither had expected to make. His lips moved softly against hers, speaking without words of protection and possibility. When they separated, Olivia saw complete honesty in his gaze for the first time. The cold mask of the Mafia boss was gone, replaced by a man offering his heart despite knowing its danger. "We'll figure it out," she whispered, settling carefully against his uninjured side. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." They stayed on the terrace as stars emerged, neither speaking of tomorrow's return to reality or the threats still waiting. For now there was just this moment, the sound of waves below, the warmth of their bodies pressed close, and the understanding that something fundamental had shifted between them. Sunlight streamed through the bulletproof windows of Dante's office as Olivia leaned over his shoulder, both of them studying security footage on multiple screens. 3 days back at the compound had settled them into a new rhythm. Partners now, not captor and captive. "There!" Olivia pointed, freezing a frame. "The same car passed twice in the background." Dante nodded, his hand absently stroking her arm as he made notes. The intimacy felt natural now, though still new enough to send shivers through her when he touched her. His shoulder had healed well, though he still favored it slightly. "We'll track the vehicle's route," he said. "If they're surveilling potential meeting locations." Alarms screamed through the compound, cutting him off. They rushed to the windows. Helicopters appeared over the tree line, their rotors churning the morning air. Black-clad figures rappelled onto the grounds, while others in FBI windbreakers poured through the gates. "Sir!" his security chief burst in, face ashen. "They've breached the perimeter. They knew exactly where to hit us." "How?" Dante demanded, already moving to secure sensitive documents. "Our protocols." Someone gave them everything. Security rotations, blind spots, access codes. Dante's eyes met Olivia's, a flicker of doubt crossing his face before he shook his head firmly. "Not her. Find the leak." Chaos erupted as agents flooded the building. They separated quickly, efficiently, clearly working from detailed intelligence. 2 agents grabbed Olivia's arms, pulling her away from Dante despite her struggles. "It's okay," Dante called after her, his voice steady even as agents forced him to his knees. "Stay calm. Say nothing until our lawyers arrive." They led her to a small conference room where a man in a suit waited. "Ms. Romano, I'm Agent Reynolds. We have a lot to discuss." Olivia sat rigid, mind racing. "I want a lawyer." "You're not under arrest," Reynolds smiled, spreading photos across the table. "We're here to help you. We've been tracking these artifacts for years." The images showed museum pieces she recognized from Dante's files, including the Borgia dagger. "They're not just art," Reynolds continued. "Each piece contains embedded microchips with classified intelligence. Your father discovered this when authenticating them for the Salvatore's." Olivia's stomach churned as Reynolds produced more photos, her at the airport, boarding Dante's plane. "That museum interview, our setup. We've been watching you, knowing Salvatore would eventually make contact trying to find your father." The room spun slightly. "You used me as bait." "An unwitting informant, yes. We didn't expect him to take you, but it gave us unprecedented access to his operation." Reynolds' smile turned sympathetic. "I know this is overwhelming. Finding out everyone's been manipulating you." "Dante wasn't," she started. "No?" Reynolds slid forward more photos. Olivia outside FBI buildings months before meeting Dante. "He knew about your connection to us, used it anyway." Across the compound, Dante sat stone-faced in an interrogation room as agents presented similar evidence. His lawyer advised silence, but Olivia saw the moment doubt crept into his eyes, viewing the time-stamped photos. Evening found her in a sterile, safe house bedroom, emotionally drained. The day's revelations played on repeat, everyone using her as an unwitting pawn. The FBI cultivating her for months. Dante possibly knowing, playing her anyway. Agent Reynolds appeared with documents. "We can protect you. Witness protection, new identity, fresh start. Just tell us everything about Salvatore's operation." Her hand shook as she signed the papers, tears finally falling. Reynolds stepped out to make a call. "We've got him locked down. The girl's cooperating." Alone, Olivia touched her lips, remembering Dante's last kiss that morning. So gentle, so real. The ultimate betrayal wasn't what either of them may have done. It was that despite everything, despite all the lies and manipulation, her heart still ached for him. She curled into herself on the narrow bed, surrounded by bland government furnishings that felt colder than any room in Dante's compound. At least there, even in the beginning, she'd felt the pulse of life, passion, danger, intensity. Here there was only sterile efficiency and the crushing weight of betrayal. The safe house windows were standard glass. No bulletproof coating like Dante's office, no cameras in every corner, no armed men patrolling with fierce loyalty. She'd thought those measures excessive once. Now their absence left her feeling strangely exposed. A guard passed her door every 15 minutes, clockwork precise. She could hear Reynolds and other agents discussing operations in the next room. They spoke of Dante like a trophy captured, a criminal mastermind finally caught. They didn't know him as she did. The man who took a bullet for her, who showed her his scars in the dark, who looked at art with genuine appreciation for its beauty and history. But had she ever really known him at all? The doubt gnawed at her, as corrosive as the fear that she'd been nothing but a convenient tool in everyone's plans. Yet her treacherous heart kept returning to that morning's kiss, the warmth in his eyes, the gentle way he'd touched her face, either the greatest performance of his life or the only real thing in a web of lies. The morning sun filtered through unfamiliar curtains as Olivia stared at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands. 2 pink lines. She blinked hard, but they remained, clear and undeniable. 6 weeks had passed since the FBI raid, 6 weeks of living in this sterile apartment under witness protection, and now this. The most permanent connection possible to the man she was, supposed to testify against. She sank onto the bathroom floor, one hand instinctively moving to her still flat stomach. The terror came first. How could she bring a child into this mess? But beneath the fear lay something else, a strange sense of peace. Whatever games and manipulation had surrounded their relationship, this was real, undeniably, irrevocably real. The following days blurred together as she attended preparation sessions with prosecutors, mechanically reviewing her testimony while morning sickness plagued her. Each meeting left her more unsettled. Little things kept nagging at her. Timestamps that didn't quite match on surveillance photos, conversations that seemed oddly constructed in transcript form. "Agent Reynolds," she interrupted during one session, pointing to a photo allegedly showing her at FBI headquarters months before meeting Dante. "This shows me wearing a red coat I didn't buy until after I met Dante. How is that possible?" Reynolds smiled smoothly, but something flickered in his eyes. "Photos can be deceiving with color balance. Let's focus on the timeline of events at the compound." That evasion sparked something in Olivia. She began paying closer attention, using her limited freedom within the witness protection program to investigate. Her art conservation training had taught her to spot subtle inconsistencies, and now she applied those skills to the evidence against Dante. Digital timestamps showed manipulation, audio recordings had suspicious gaps, surveillance photos displayed subtle lighting inconsistencies, suggesting alteration. She started keeping detailed notes, hidden carefully in her apartment. Meanwhile, behind prison walls, Dante worked with cold precision. His lawyers carried coded messages to his most trusted associates, setting plans in motion. He prepared for every scenario, building a legal defense while simultaneously arranging something far more drastic if needed. When his sources confirmed Olivia's pregnancy, his controlled facade cracked briefly. In the privacy of his cell, he pressed his palm against the wall, imagining her on the other side. His child, his family, his responsibility to protect them both now superseded everything else. The package arrived on a Tuesday, handed off through so many intermediaries it was impossible to trace. Olivia's hands shook as she opened it, finding documents, photos, and a letter written in elegant script from Nonna Salvatore. The truth unfolded through yellowed photographs and old correspondence. Her grandmother, not her father, had been the Salvatore family's art authenticator decades ago. During a rival family's attack, she'd hidden young Dante and his grandfather, saving their lives. The stolen artifacts had been entrusted to her protection, containing information that could destroy multiple criminal enterprises. When she died, Olivia's father had taken the artifacts, not understanding their true significance. Dante's original plan hadn't been to use Olivia. He'd intended to return the artifacts through her, clearing her family's name and repaying an old debt of honor. More recent documents revealed something even more disturbing. Financial records showed payments to certain FBI agents, including Reynolds, from shell companies linked to the terrorist organization seeking the artifacts, the same group that had ambushed them that day on the road. Olivia spread the evidence across her kitchen table, mind racing as pieces clicked into place. The manufactured evidence against Dante, Reynolds' evasive answers, the convenient timing of the FBI raid just as they were closing in on the real threat. Her hand drifted to her stomach, where their child grew, as she absorbed the implications. She'd been played, but not by Dante, by the very people claiming to protect her. The soft knock startled her from her thoughts. Through the peephole, she saw a familiar face, Marina Rossi, Dante's lawyer. Her heart pounded as she opened the door cautiously. "He doesn't know I'm here," Marina said quietly, stepping inside. "But there's something you need to know before tomorrow." Olivia felt cold dread settle in her stomach as Marina explained. The FBI safe house location had been compromised. Her father's associates, working with the terrorist group, had found her. They planned to eliminate her as a witness tonight, making it look like suicide to discredit her testimony. "Dante suspected this might happen," Marina said, pressing a burner phone into Olivia's hand. "If you trust him enough to save your life and your child's, call this number in exactly 1 hour." As the lawyer slipped away, Olivia stood frozen, one hand clutching the phone while the other rested protectively over her stomach. The most important decision of her life waited in the next 60 minutes. Trust the man who might have used her, or the authorities who definitely had? The clock ticked steadily on her wall as she stared at the phone, weighing lives in the balance, hers, their unborn child's, and whatever future they might forge from the ashes of truth and deception. Midnight cast long shadows across Olivia's apartment as she methodically packed a small bag. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Cash, documents, basic clothes, the evidence package, while her mind raced through Dante's security protocols. The burner phone felt heavy in her pocket, a lifeline to whatever came next. She'd made the call exactly 1 hour after Marina left, receiving coordinates to an extraction point 3 blocks away. A woman's voice had given precise instructions. 20 minutes. Bring only what you can carry. Look for a dark van with construction markings. Movement caught her eye through the window. A black sedan rolled to a stop across the street, its headlights off. Her heart stuttered as she watched 2 men exit, their movements too purposeful to be casual late-night wanderers. Her phone vibrated, not the burner, but her security app. Someone was tampering with the back door. She pressed the panic button that should alert her FBI detail. No response. "Damn it," she whispered, slinging the bag across her body. Dante's voice echoed in her memory from those quiet evenings at the compound when he'd insisted on teaching her emergency protocols. "Always have multiple exits planned. Use height differences to your advantage. Crowds are both cover and chaos. Choose carefully." The front door wasn't an option. They'd expect that. The fire escape outside her bedroom window would be watched. But the building's old laundry chute in her hallway connected to the basement. She'd checked it her first day here, another of Dante's lessons about knowing every possible escape route. Footsteps creaked on the back stairs. Olivia moved silently through her apartment, turning off lights as she went. The laundry chute was narrow, tight for an adult but manageable. She'd need to go feet first, controlling her descent with her arms against the sides. The back door lock clicked. Time was up. Olivia slipped into the hallway, easing the chute door open as voices whispered in her kitchen. The metal slide was cool against her palms as she lowered herself in. Her muscles strained, keeping her descent controlled and silent. Halfway down, she heard shouts above. They'd discovered her apartment empty. The basement was dark when she emerged, smelling of detergent and mildew. She oriented herself quickly. Employee entrance to her right, parking garage to her left. She chose the garage, remembering Dante's advice about having a vehicle between you and pursuers. Staying low, she moved between cars, counting rows to maintain her orientation. The extraction point was 3 blocks east. An engine revved behind her. Headlights swept the garage. Olivia pressed herself against a concrete pillar, pulse pounding. The car prowled past her position, men's voices carrying through open windows. The moment it turned toward another row, she ran. Cool night air hit her face as she emerged onto the street. Keep moving. Look natural but alert. 2 blocks to go. A shout rang out behind her. She didn't look back, just increased her pace. The street ahead had more foot traffic, late-night bar crowds providing cover. She merged into a group of laughing tourists, matching their pace while scanning for threats. 1 block remaining. A man in a dark jacket appeared at the corner ahead, speaking into a radio. Not FBI, his stance was wrong, more military. One of her father's associates? She ducked into a convenience store, pretending to browse while watching through the windows. Miss? The clerk eyed her suspiciously. Just getting some gum, she said, forcing a smile. Through the glass, she saw the man move away, heading toward her apartment building. Now! She pushed through the door, crossed the street at an angle, and spotted the van. Construction company logo on the side, just as described. The side door slid open as she approached. Inside, quickly, a familiar voice ordered. Marco, Dante's chief of security. She scrambled in, heart racing as the van pulled away. Marco handed her a bulletproof vest. Put this on! We're not clear yet. They drove a complex route through the city, watching for tails. Marco's phone chirped, a coded sequence of tones. His expression tightened as he listened to the transmission. Change of plans. Boss had to move early. Prison transport hit some complications. Olivia's chest constricted. Is he alive but injured? He's proceeding independently to the rendezvous point. The abandoned airfield appeared ahead, a small helicopter waiting in the shadows. They were halfway across the tarmac when gunfire erupted from the darkness. Marco shoved her toward a hangar while returning fire. Inside! Get to cover! She sprinted for the metal building, bullets sparking off concrete around her. The hangar was filled with old equipment, creating a maze of shadows. Footsteps echoed from multiple directions. She was surrounded. A figure appeared in her peripheral vision. She ducked behind a tool chest as a shot rang out. Then another shot, but from a different weapon. A body fell heavily nearby. Olivia! That voice. Her heart leaped. Dante emerged from the shadows, gun still raised. His shirt was dark with blood on one side, his face pale but his movements precise as he scanned for threats. Their eyes met across the space between them. He started to speak, then stumbled. The gun clattered from his hand as he caught himself against a workbench. No! She ran to him as his legs gave out, helping him slide to the floor. His skin was clammy, breathing shallow. You're here, he murmured, touching her face with a trembling hand. I'm here, and... She pressed his palm to her stomach. We're here, both of us. His eyes widened, fierce joy breaking through the pain before they fluttered closed. She held him as Marco's team secured the area, medical personnel rushing in. The helicopter flight was a blur of activity, medics working to stabilize Dante while she gripped his hand. The yacht appeared out of the darkness, a floating hospital designed for exactly this type of emergency. The Mediterranean breeze carried the scent of jasmine and sea salt across the balcony. Olivia adjusted the soft blanket around her sleeping daughter, marveling at her tiny features. Dante's strong brow softened by her delicate nose, dark curls already showing against her head. Sofia Elisabetta Salvatore, named for both their mothers, born into a world of new beginnings. The villa sprawled below them, white stone, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Guards patrolled discreetly among the olive trees, a reminder that even in this peaceful setting, protection remained essential. But here, overlooking their private beach and the endless blue horizon, Olivia had found her own kind of peace with that reality. Strong arms encircled her waist as Dante pressed against her back, his chin resting on her shoulder to gaze down at their daughter. 8 months had healed his wounds, leaving only scars that matched the many others, marking his body. Each told a story of survival, of fights won and prices paid. She's perfect, he murmured, voice rough with emotion that only his family ever heard. She is. Olivia leaned into his embrace, remembering those frantic days after their escape, the tense weeks of recovery on the yacht, moving between safe houses as Dante's plan unfolded. The elaborate deception that convinced the FBI they'd recovered his body after a firefight. A carefully chosen double, DNA records altered by well-placed bribes. She'd watched the news coverage of Dante Salvatore's death from a private hospital suite in Dubai, 7 months pregnant and officially a ghost herself. Her father's arrest had followed shortly after, the FBI finally catching him trying to sell the artifacts to their undercover agents. The microchips embedded within had been damaged, their classified contents uncompromised. "The lawyers delivered the final paperwork this morning," Dante said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Everything's in place." He guided her inside to his study, where Sophia's bassinet waited near his desk. They settled their sleeping daughter before he retrieved a leather portfolio. "Your new identity is completely established now. Educational records, work history, everything needed for a respected art historian to assume directorship of a prestigious museum." His smile held pride and satisfaction. "The board was quite impressed with your credentials." Olivia traced the edge of her new passport, the name feeling more natural now, after months of use. And the museum's previous owner had no objections to selling. He was very motivated after certain financial irregularities came to light. Dante's expression turned predatory for a moment, before softening as he looked at her. "The museum is yours to run, however you choose, whenever you're ready. A legitimate enterprise with full autonomy." She understood what he wasn't saying, that while he would always maintain certain underground connections, he was shifting more operations into legal channels. Not from any moral awakening, but from a pragmatic desire to build a safer world for their daughter. Moving to the window, Olivia watched the sun beginning its descent toward the horizon. The grounds below were a study in contrasts. Beautiful gardens alongside security checkpoints, art pieces worth millions protected by state-of-the-art surveillance. Rather like the man behind her, whose capacity for violence was matched by his fierce devotion to those he loved. "I know what you're thinking," Dante said, coming to stand beside her. "That you should feel more conflict about all this, about loving someone like me." "Someone like you?" She turned to face him, reaching up to trace the scar along his jaw, a reminder of the bullet he'd taken for her. "You mean someone who would die to protect his family? Who understands that real love isn't blind to darkness, but chooses to see the light as well?" His eyes darkened as he caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "I won't pretend to be someone I'm not," he said quietly. "There will always be darkness in me. The things I've done, the choices I've made, they're part of who I am. I know." She stepped closer, laying her head against his chest to hear his steady heartbeat. "But you and Sophia are my light too. The family I never thought I'd find." Sophia stirred in her bassinet, making the soft sounds that preceded waking. They moved together to attend to her, a choreographed dance they'd perfected over the past weeks. Dante lifted her with careful hands that had both ended lives and cradled his daughter with infinite tenderness. Olivia watched them, remembering that frantic day in the airport so many months ago, her desperation to make that flight, not knowing it would lead her to a love she never expected, a love complicated by violence and darkness. Yes, but also filled with protection, passion, and a depth of feeling that still took her breath away. "I never thought I'd have this," Dante admitted softly, swaying slightly as Sophia settled against his shoulder. "A woman who sees all of me and stays, a child to protect and guide, a future worth building." The sun painted the room in amber light as evening approached. Below, the shift change of security teams moved with practiced efficiency. Soon the night guards would take their positions, maintaining the safety of their carefully constructed world. Olivia moved to join her family, fitting herself against Dante's side as Sophia drifted back to sleep. Here in this moment, she was exactly where she was meant to be. That mistaken flight hadn't been a mistake at all. It had been destiny disguised as chance, leading her to a dangerous, complicated, but ultimately perfect love.